All right, y'all. The Clean Finish is on the air here on the OSC Podcast Network. I am Triple R, and as always, joining me, Ant-Man on the line. What's good, homie?
Not much, Triple R. How we doing?
I'm doing good, man. Hey, before we get into what we're going to talk about here on this episode, and we do have quite a bit to talk about, I gotta ask you, because I mean, you're doing your thing on the NTTB along with a good friend Alex. What's your take on the past couple of days? Kevin Durant, Twitter, multiple Twitter accounts. Catch me up to speed on what's going on, because I almost feel like I'm watching wrestling when I'm watching KD doing his thing on social media.
So, Kevin created, apparently he has ghost Twitter accounts where he goes and claps back at his haters to kind of defend himself, and he forgot to log out. And so went third person on himself, defending himself, except it was on his verified account. It's kind of childish. Like, for all intents and purposes, you're winning. You won the MVP in the finals. You won yourself a ring. You took the criticism. You still won. You did what you did. Why do you need to clap back at people on Twitter one at a time? It's not going to make a difference if one person thinks that you took the easy way out. Who cares? You're Kevin freaking Durant, reigning MVP.
Do you think there was a moment where he thought to himself, man, let me try to cover this up and go full-blown rock with the whole third-person deal?
I don't know, but I'm actually kind of surprised that the very next day he came out and admitted it and just owned up to it, because as we know, athletes are not known for owning up to things, especially when it's embarrassing. And so I was kind of surprised about that. But like, dude, you're still hung on to your ex-girlfriend. Like, you're winning in it. It's like you went from, an average woman in your mind to like Giselle Bundchen, and you're still like following her on Facebook. Like, dude, it's over.
I'm glad you mentioned that he came back out. I believe it was today or yesterday. He came out, owned up to the mistake, kind of fessed up. And then the narrative today, as I'm watching ESPN and whatnot, is the same guys that were kind of bashing him a couple of days ago for having the fake account and for being exposed. They're now commending him on owning the situation and being a man about it. And I got to thinking to myself, and I'll go ahead and fully disclose, I'm a big wrestling fan. That is why we do the Clean Finish. But wrestling has preconditioned me to always look at a situation. Is it a work? Am I being worked? Are we being worked with KD? Is this all some kind of master plan for him to kind of get in our good graces?
If that's the case, that's one hell of a plan. That's like Vince McMahon level idea right there. I didn't even think about it like that, but now that you mention it, that's one hell of a plan. If he concocted this to kind of get people to because he's a guy that doesn't like to be hated. Hell, he hated the nickname Slim Reaper, which by and large is one of the best basketball nicknames to ever exist. He wanted to be called the Servant. Like, no, dude, you're the Slim Reaper. Like, own it. And he didn't even like that. So, that's one hell of a plan. I commend him if that's his plan, dude. You got me.
Hey, if that was his plan, if we come to find out somehow that was his plan, the man has a future in the WWE when his playing days are done.
Look, man, this is the Montreal Screwjob all over again.
All right, man. Well, let's go ahead and get into what we do talk about here on the Clean Finish. Some wrestling news here. Hey, man, we got to start off with some sad news. Bobby Heenan passed away. I believe it was over the weekend, and they went ahead and paid tribute to him this past Monday on Raw. Just before we started recording, you just got done telling me you did some research on Bobby Heenan, and you were pretty surprised at how extensive his history in the business is.
Yeah, I knew that Bobby Heenan was in the business for a long time and has been in several different companies, but I didn't realize the amount of people and superstars this guy had as a manager. It's crazy.
Yeah, my fondest memories of Bobby Heenan myself is, of course, during his time as a manager, always going up against Hulk Hogan, always going up against the Ultimate Warrior, going up against the guys that I rooted for. So, and he was the absolute best at in that role. And he was hilarious as I got older and as I learned to appreciate color commentary and stuff like that. He was one of the best on the microphone.
Oh yeah, him and Mongo McMike or Gorilla Monsoon. him going against Gorilla Monsoon on the microphone as a commentator, some of the best work.
You know, I don't know if you were aware of how poor his health had become over the last. I mean, I don't want to be wrong here, but over the last handful of years, let me just put it to you that way. He was battling a lot of health issues. He had I'm not too sure what type of cancer it was that he was suffering from. By chance, do you by chance know?
You know, I had seen it because it just released to like his medical history, but I don't know off the top of my head what specific cancer he was dealing with.
Well, he was in really bad shape, man. He had lost a lot of his facial features, and he was looking, you know, unrecognizable over the last couple of years of his life, and which was really sad. But of course, you know, now that he's passed on, I mean, he's in a better place, hopefully, right now, and you know, the show goes on, but he'll greatly be missed.
He definitely will be missed.
Did you have a chance to watch Raw this past Monday?
I did. I did end up watching Raw. Yeah, I did.
I didn't catch it myself. Go ahead and catch me up on some of the highlights.
So, you know, they're setting up. So they set up the Miz. The Miz Kurt Angle comes out to set up the number one contendership for the Miz's Intercontinental Champion. The Miz takes some good shots, you know, with fatherhood and stuff like that. Takes some shot at Kurt Angle. They end up making a 6-pack challenge with Jason Jordan, the Hardy Brothers, the Miz Taraj, and let's see, there's one more person else involved with it. Jason Jordan ends up winning that. He's the number one contender. So it looks like the Intercontinental is going to be defended on No Mercy on the actual pay-per-view. Setting up final matches, Alexa Bliss faces Nia Jax. One-on-one, Alexa Bliss in the middle of the match is like, no, I'm done. Sasha Banks' music hits. She comes back, forces Alexa Bliss back in the ring. Nia Jax, I think, ends up winning. But at the same point in time, Bayley's music hits. They are in San Jose, California. Bayley's music hits. She comes out. They end up triple teaming Nia Jax to get her out of the ring. And at the end of the night, her shoulder's healed, and now they throw her into the Fatal 4-Way to make it a Fatal 5-Way, which I think was totally rushed. I know they're in San Jose, and that's her home, but it just seems rushed to throw her back into that.
I was fixing to ask, that is her hometown. How was the reaction for her?
Yeah, the hometown of San Jose. You know, she got a good pop at her hometown, and I think people are just excited to see her shoulder, you know, is okay, and she's back. She's back on Raw.
Going back to Miz and the Miz Taraj, I did see some YouTube clips on the angle that set up the Battle Royal or the 6-pack challenge. I'm sorry, to set up the number one contendership. How much more orange can Curtis Axel and Bo Dallas possibly get?
Ooh, they are hitting that self-tanning lotion hard.
I mean, they are reaching nearly Hulk Hogan levels with their tan, man.
And then it doesn't help that Bo Dallas is wearing like that sparkly gold jacket that only accentuates the orange.
I don't get what look Bo Dallas is going for. Help me out here.
I'm guessing some sort of indie pop rocker, I guess. Because, you know, I've seen him wear like distressed jeans, and then he comes in with the glittery jacket, so... Yeah, you got me on that. I like Curtis Axel. His makes sense. He's got the modern hairstyle that's in with the side part, you know, cleaned up, fitting pants and stuff like that. I get his look, but
by chance, did you know Bo Dallas was huge in the conspiracy theories and whatnot?
No, I didn't know that.
Man, when you get a chance, YouTube some videos, or I'll tell you what, he was on Chris Jericho's podcast maybe a month or two ago. Man, he is far out there, man. We're talking, you know, beyond flat Earth, fake moon landings. I mean, that's like your entry level conspiracy theorist. No, he is way out there on some shit that I personally have never heard of.
So the jacket kind of makes sense now, because I bet you it's lined with aluminum foil.
Maybe, man.
But the biggest thing I got out of it was Roman Reigns comes out and, you know, has his verbal assault on John Cena, which was nice. But what he went to, like, why didn't you go to it 3 weeks ago? He brings up a video of the Cena calling out The Rock for being a part-time wrestler, and yet and for going to Hollywood, and then that's what John Cena is doing, and Roman Reigns ends up calling him, you know, a part-time actor or something like that. Like, why didn't you bring that up 3 weeks ago?
You would think that would be the backbone to Roman Reigns' issue with John Cena. That's just poor writing right there, in my opinion.
So, I mean, outside of that, everything else was just kind of setting up No Mercy. Nothing really too special other than.
What did they do with Brock Lesnar and Braun Strowman? What kind of interaction did they have?
So, as usual, which I kind of like it. I kind of like that they do that as long as they don't overuse it. They did the satellite interview with Brock Lesnar and Roman and Braun Strowman. Braun Strowman said he's coming for the title. Paul Heyman, acting as the advocate for Brock Lesnar, was kind of talking. So they set up the clip where Paul Heyman last week was talking about how he sees Braun Strowman now as he did Brock Lesnar in 2002 when there was nobody like him. He was hungry and he took out all the big dogs, and that's what he sees in Braun Strowman right now, and he's happy because that has motivated Brock Lesnar in a way that he hasn't been motivated in years.
And that's a scary Brock Lesnar right there.
Exactly. So they're turning it into a situation where Brock Lesnar is got that Braun Strowman has rekindled that fire in Brock Lesnar.
Mm-hmm.
And so Brock Lesnar's he's telling Braun Strowman, hey, he's like, don't sit back. You're not coming for Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's coming for you. And Braun Strowman is like, I don't care who's coming. I'm getting that title. But what I don't understand is that later on in the show, even though they have no more need to make Braun Strowman look like more of a monster, he comes out and flattens out Enzo Amore, because he's in the way.
Well, that makes no sense. Enzo's got a match this Sunday at No Mercy. Why make him suffer?
Okay, so Enzo was getting ready. He's doing his shtick on the platform, getting ready to face Neville's or come out to the ring to watch Neville's. I think Neville was facing Grand Malik, and halfway through his shtick, boom, Braun comes out and lays him flat.
Oh, that makes no sense. I'm glad. You know what? I'm glad I didn't see that because that's ass backwards, man. So how are we supposed to be invested in Enzo's match against Neville when we see him get destroyed the way he gets destroyed?
Exactly. And then how am I supposed to, how is flattening Enzo make him any more of a beast than what SummerSlam has already done? And then
exactly.
What the following night on Raw did, flattening Enzo is you should do that. You're damn near, 350 pounds. Enzo should be nothing to you.
So I agree. I like the whole satellite feed deal when it's not overly used. So it sounds like Strowman was obviously in the arena. What was Brock Lesnar's background? Was he at his home or what was he? What environment was he in?
For those interviews, they always have that normal office look.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that. Why don't they go all the way and have him in his home?
Yeah, there might be a lot of dead animals in the background.
There you go, the Conqueror, the Beast in his habitat.
Yeah, they probably ended up filming that in Stanford, or hell, he was probably there, and they just had him in separate rooms.
Well, you know what? Now that you mentioned that, more than likely they probably filmed it last week or the last time he was at an arena.
Probably, it makes sense, but it was done properly. Braun Strowman's getting better on the microphone, and his in-ring skills are getting even better. So I'm actually really excited for that match.
Well, let's go ahead and talk about it. No Mercy this Sunday. Let's go ahead and preview it and make some predictions here. See how close we can get to it. I got the card pulled up here on Wikipedia. I'm just going to start at the bottom, how they got the matches listed, and work our way up to the main event. And here at the bottom, they got The Miz defending the Intercontinental Championship against Jason Jordan. Like you mentioned not too long ago, they went ahead and set that up this past Monday. How do you think this is going to play out?
I think it's going to be good. I think The Miz is going to help Jason Jordan excel. Jason Jordan's got natural wrestling ability. He's coming along on the microphone. The storyline I'm not necessarily a fan of, not because of Jason Jordan, but the whole Kurt Angle biological daddy kind of storyline seems to me like a dead end eventually. But I think these two can have a good match because Jason Jordan has that natural wrestling ability, and The Miz has elevated his game to be able to tell a story in that ring. And of course, the story that Miz feels disrespected. Not only that, he feels like he's wrestling Daddy's son, who's only got this opportunity because Daddy's the Raw general manager. I think you're going to see The Miz hopefully, win in a heel fashion, very dirty, and sticking it to basically the man.
I'm in agreement. I think Miz is going to hold on to the title. I think it's too soon to give it to Jason Jordan. As far as how the match is going to play out, it's very interesting. Miz is obviously the veteran in this situation, and he can hold his own. But Jason Jordan, although his career is real young, he's light years ahead of Miz as far as athletic ability and actual wrestling skills. His last two matches the past 2 weeks on Raw with Cena and Roman Reigns, those matches were phenomenal. But at the same time, I don't get the story that they're trying to tell, because he wrestled Cena, he wrestled Reigns, and let's be honest here. He's kind of taken a step down to the Intercontinental Championship at No Mercy, finally getting his shot at The Miz. And it shouldn't be like that. I mean, the Intercontinental Championship should be a big deal, but man, we all know how they kind of portray these belts, here within the last 10 years or so. So not too sure as far as why the road took us the way it did to get to this point, but I think the match is going to be pretty decent.
I think the match is going to be great. I think that the reason they have him wrestle Reigns and the reason they have him wrestle Cena is to kind of establish his credibility. Like, hey, he can hang with these big dogs. Now that we've seen that, now they can bring him back on the road. Okay, like it's time for you to earn your titles, and that starts off with the Intercontinental, because he's already been a tag team champion. So I agree with you. I think it's too soon for that, but I definitely think it's going to be a good match.
All right, up next, they got Alexa Bliss defending her championship against Sasha Banks, Bayley, Nia Jax, and Emma, who, golly, I completely forgot Emma was even in this match until I just read her name right now. So kind of goes to show you how they've been booking her recently. I don't know. I think this one right here is a toss-up. I really wouldn't mind Alexa holding on to the belt for a little longer, but I can see them shaking things up and possibly Nia getting a run with the title. How about you?
I think Nia wins this. I think they're going to give it to her. I think it's her time. And I think eventually they set up a Nia versus Bayley kind of situation, since I believe it was wrestling against Nia when she injured her shoulder. But I'm with you. Like, they set up Emma to beat Mickie James, right? And then the following week they set her, having her win to sneak into that, to make it a fatal four-way. And then this past week you add Bayley? Like, why? Bayley can stand on her own.
So with this being a fatal five-way, I'm going to assume it's going to be like a triple threat where the champion doesn't necessarily need to be pinned. Maybe that's Emma's role in this match?
Yeah, so it's going to exactly happen that way. The champion does not have to be in the match or pinned in order to lose the title. So I guess maybe you sneak, but Emma hasn't built Bill strong enough for me to see her stealing a championship.
All right, so I'm gonna go with Nia Jax. That's my final prediction.
Yeah, I think Nia's gonna win it. I think they're gonna give her the title.
All right, we got another championship match up next. Neville Cruiserweight Championship on the line, going up against Enzo Amore. Man, I don't know about this one right here, man. I'm a fan of Enzo's gimmick. His mic work is second to none. I think we've complimented him on that in past episodes, but his in-ring work, not the strongest. I'm not sure if these two are going to be able to pull off a good match, and I certainly wouldn't give the belt to Enzo, so I'm going to go with Neville.
I kind of agree with you. I think Enzo's skills are not on par with Neville at this moment, so I kind of want to see this match where Enzo's running, per se, where he's forcing Neville, frustrating him, forcing him to fight Enzo style of match. And I think to give an injection to the cruiserweight, I think they're going to give the belt to Enzo.
We'll see. I mean, if they do happen to give it to Enzo, I just hope they don't squander it, and I hope they do something special with it. But I would hold it. I would leave it on Neville, but I guess we'll see how it plays out. Man, you talk about a match that I completely forgot. Up next, they got Finn Balor going up against Bray Wyatt. This is a head scratcher for me. I've been a little out of the loop as far as this particular storyline. Is there anything you can kind of help fill me in on as far as why they're continuing to go at it after SummerSlam?
Man, to tell you the truth, I didn't even realize this match was booked for No Mercy. I know that they've been but he's been using Goldust to go after Finn Balor. But I don't know what's left for the Demon and Bray Wyatt to go after.
I'm going to go ahead and predict, even though I know zilch as far as what's led up to this installment of their feud, I'm going to go ahead and predict the Bray Wyatt win here because I don't see why else you're going to continue this. I mean, Finn won pretty convincingly in SummerSlam, so I'm going to assume Bray Wyatt's going to get a win here.
Yeah, I think Bray Wyatt's going to get a win only because I think they're going to set up a rubber match at the next pay-per-view. And so, 1-to-1 leading into the Survivor Series pay-per-view?
Possibly. We'll see. So up next, Tag Team Championship, a rematch from SummerSlam, another rematch. Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins going against Cesaro and Sheamus. How do you see this one shaping up?
I see the new baby faces, Ambrose and Rollins, winning this match in a close. You see what the Cesaro and Sheamus are calling each other?
No, what are they calling themselves?
I believe they're calling themselves the Bar.
Oh, you know what? I did see that. Do you think that kind of not necessarily kind of steps on the Revival's toes as far as the actual, like the Revival, they were kind of going off that vibe as well. Like, hey, we're the standard of tag team wrestling.
Yeah, but you can't be the standard of tag team wrestling and be hurt.
Point taken.
So, I mean, yeah, it probably does. It is a little gimmick infringement. But, when nobody's seen you in 3 months, you can't really be the standard in tag team wrestling.
I have to think that's where they're going to go when they eventually do come back. I mean, they're such a great tag team like you and I have talked about before. And I see great things with Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose going against the Revival. So, I mean, with that being said, I'm going to predict Rollins and Ambrose is going to hold on to the titles.
Yeah, I think they hold on to the titles.
Okay, so up next we got the I'm going to go ahead and say semi-main event. I think they've practically been promoting this this show, No Mercy, as a double main event, and I mean it certainly is. I mean, these are two big matches that we're fixing to discuss. First, John Cena and Roman Reigns. They've done a pretty good job building this up. I still think it's too soon to give it away, but all things considering, the little bit of reality they've kind of sprinkled into this storyline, I think it's helped the build. I think fans are eager to see this play out. And man, it's tough, man. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I don't know where they're gonna go as far as a winner on this one.
I agree with you. I think it is too soon. I think Kurt Angle is listing it as two co-main events for No Mercy. I think when he was talking about that, he was. If your job is to get Roman Reigns over, then I think he needs to beat John Cena and beat him cleanly.
I agree. But with that being said, if they don't have anything else big planned for either guy, I think they need to keep this going. So the only way I see it continuing is if Cena gets that win first over Roman Reigns to give Roman Reigns something to go after. I think if Reigns beats him, I mean, you could do the opposite and you can have Cena try to get his win back, the veteran trying to come back to get his win.
Yeah,
but
I think if you're trying to get him over, which is what they've been trying to do for a few years, having Cena beat him fair and square is not a good look for Roman Reigns. Now, I don't know when John Cena is leaving to film the Bumblebee movie, but if hypothetically he were to lose here to Roman Reigns cleanly and disappear for a few months because he's filming the movie, you could potentially have him come back in or around the Royal Rumble time frame. To set up kind of like, hey, I got beat. I talked all this hot mess. I got beat. And now, he kind of lost his passion for the industry, or he lost himself because he got beat. And now he's back to, he's found that inner fire again and he's back to set things right. I think you can set that up. But again, I don't know when it is he's actually leaving to go film the movies that he's working on. So,
well, one thing's for sure. I mean, I'm excited to see this match, and it's been a while since I've been amped up to see. Probably not since Lesnar and Samoa Joe have I been this intrigued to watch two guys go at it. So, it's going to be great. No matter what happens, I think it's going to be pretty damn cool. And that goes into our main event, Brock Lesnar defending the Universal Championship, going against the monster among men, Braun Strowman. Man, this is another one that I'm not having a hard time trying to think how they're going to go ahead and play this one out. How do you see it?
I was thinking about this, and I'm trying to look like big picture and see where they're setting this up. and I don't know. I don't know where they're planning on going. My gut tells me that Lesnar beats Strowman, and then they set up some sort of cage match or something like that for Survivor Series.
That's very possible. The only thing that I'm concerned about is they've done such a great job building up Braun. If Lesnar beats Braun Strowman, and especially if he beats him in a convincing fashion, I think you've done all this work building up Braun Strowman and you're going to flush it down the toilet. Now that I'm thinking about it, you mentioned Heyman was playing Braun up a lot in their segment. I'm going to throw a wild prediction out there. I'm going to just throw a wild prediction out in the air, and we'll see where it lands on Sunday. Heyman turns on Brock Lesnar, joins Braun Strowman.
Because he sees something in him like that he saw in Brock Lesnar 15 years ago.
He sees the future in Strowman. He knows Lesnar's at the end of his line. You know, he gets older as the years go by. And here's this young, hungry beast on the come up. And that really plays into Heyman's character. He's a moocher.
I mean, it makes sense. And it's not that far perplexed. I've seen, him do that from before.
Hell, he's done it before to Lesnar when he rode with Big Show way the hell back in the day.
Yeah, but my only question is Braun's character as it's portrayed now willing to take a Heyman, become a Heyman guy? That's my only concern. And it would help his promo ability, having Paul kind of do some of the talking for him.
So, I mean, it's a good thing. We both kind of don't know how they're going to play it out. And I mean, that's rare nowadays when you have that situation, because like we talked about on the last episode, we know so much of the behind the scenes politics and you kind of get a pattern and you kind of get a sense of where they're going to go. It's good when we have this situation, because I'm actually looking forward to watching this Sunday.
Finally, you see some storylines take time to develop and actually develop, logically, and that makes sense. You don't necessarily know which way you're leaning to, because either man at any point in time can literally rip off the head of the other one. But in this particular case, we just don't know which one is going to do it.
So as of right now, they only have 7 matches listed. We haven't mentioned the Hardy Boys and a couple other names out there. You have to imagine there's going to be a pre-show. Maybe we'll see them in some form, on the pre-show or whatnot. But if they leave it at 7 matches over the course of 3 hours, man, some of these matches might get a good chunk of time. More than likely Roman Reigns, Cena, and possibly the main event.
I was looking at that too. I was like, wow, 7 matches for a pay-per-view, that's kind of light. But of course, in some way, shape, or form, there's going to be some matches on the pre-show, and there's probably a match that's going to be thrown together that we weren't expecting. I just realized I forgot to say on Raw, what Curtis Hawking? They actually have like a little tracker. He's lost like 116 consecutive matches in the WWE or something like that.
Well, so now, I mean, you might as well make that a thing now.
And that's what they're doing. Now they have a tracker. He's come out and said, tonight's Apollo Crews, both Apollo Crews and Curtis Hawkins hadn't been seen on TV in some while. And so he was like, tonight against Apollo Crews, I'm going to end it. He loses. And they have a tracker there. So I think they're going to work with the thing basically in reverse, the reverse Goldberg. He's going to go like 0-150 before he gets that final that victory. So I'm guessing maybe you see a Curtis Hawkins, maybe an Apollo Crews show up.
So moving over to SmackDown, not really a whole lot to mention, in my opinion, other than Shane McMahon coming to address the Kevin Owens situation with what he did to his father, Vince McMahon, last week. They'll be going at it inside Hell in a Cell. That's going to be going down a couple weeks after No Mercy. That's going to be going down October 8th. So we should probably expect to see them ramp things up on the SmackDown side going into that show. And we'll definitely cover that, do a preview of that card and put some predictions on that one as well before we head into that show.
Yeah, that should be exactly. Now that comes past Sunday, the ramp up will be for the next WWE pay-per-view, for SmackDown's pay-per-view.
So last week we were talking about Ric Flair and where we would personally rank him amongst our greatest of all times. And then you shot me a little message a couple days later of a link of wrestling Mount Rushmore, and you're gonna have to refresh my memory on who exactly put that one together, that particular one together.
So that particular one was on Bleacher Report, and they were just, clearly talking about who's on your wrestling Mount Rushmore. And I shot that to you, and I was like, hey, this is something interesting to look at, to think about, because we were talking about, how Jim the Anvil Neidhart kind of changed the face of wrestling.
Yeah.
And so, following that report comes out, and I'm like, damn, who would you put up there? Because you'd have to go, even though, some of the AWA and all that other stuff was a little bit before our time, like, who would you want to put on your mountain? I sat there and thought about it, and I changed my list like 4 or 5 times.
Now, who did Bleacher Report have on theirs? They had Bruno, Hogan, and then I'm blanking on the last two. Stone Cold, and who was the last one?
Stone Cold, and hold on, I'm trying to pull up the last one here.
I want to say Cena, but I'm not 100% sure.
You're good. The list is the Mount Rushmore of wrestling is Bruno Sammartino, Hulk Hogan, Steve Austin, and John Cena.
Okay, what 4 would you put on there?
I would have definitely Hulk Hogan and Stone Cold are on my list.
And mine as well. So we're neck and neck so far.
I have Shawn Michaels on there, and I have Andre the Giant on there.
Really? Wow. So I have, in addition to Hogan and Stone Cold, I have The Rock, and I have John Cena on there as well. Everyone wants to throw Bruno Sammartino on their list, or on their Mount Rushmore, I'm sorry. And listen, with all due respect to Bruno, I mean, what he did back in the day was a huge accomplishment. But in my opinion, none of that stuff is kind of relevant today, man. Well, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I agree with you. I've seen the old wrestling footage, but what wrestling is today, or what wrestling was in the 90s, is not the same as what wrestling was when Bruno Sammartino and those guys were wrestling. So I agree with you. Like, your kids are never going to know what Bruno Sammartino did. If you're showing them wrestling stuff, you're going to show them, obviously, some of the Attitude Era stuff. So they're going to see Triple H, The Rock, Stone Cold, those kind of guys. So I agree with I had The Rock on there, and I have him as like my honorable mention. But when I look at it, The Rock and Stone Cold, I just think Stone Cold was much more of a phenomenon, that I gave him the edge over The Rock.
See, my logic on having The Rock on my Mount Rushmore, I agree with you. Stone Cold was the man that led the WWF back then into what they are today. He's the reason why they won the Monday Night Wars and so on and so on. But The Rock, I mean, he's the most famous actor today, the highest paid actor today. So with that being said, put aside Jesse Ventura and other people like that who have gone on to do great things in other areas, in politics and whatnot. In my opinion, The Rock's had the most successful post-wrestling career and hasn't been afraid to come back. And every time he comes back, granted, he's coming back to help his business out as well, but it helps bring some shine over to the WWE, and I think that's commendable.
Yeah, and one of the things about The Rock is he didn't stay too long. Right. He didn't stay well past his prime.
Exactly.
And so when he comes back, he's still within that window of wrestling ability where, he can still mix it up with these guys. And it's not like, it's not like, as much as I love him, it's not like Ric Flair wrestling in the WWE against like Randy Orton when he was like 65 or, it's not the same. I also have Ric Flair is like, if I had to add a fifth head, Ric Flair would be that fifth head.
So speak on Shawn Michaels and Andre the Giant. Those are two very interesting choices that you don't come across those very often.
You don't. Well, see, what I liked about Shawn Michaels is Shawn Michaels kind of at that time broke off from that blonde, good-looking, chiseled kind of face look and completely took his character in like a different direction. He turned into the Heartbreak Kid, the showstopper. The guy's known as Mr. WrestleMania for a reason. And that kind of overall persona kind of like flourished in the early 90s and led into a lot of the things that, they were getting away with stuff that, I mean, hell, they read the letter that the FCC sent them on national television the next week. That stuff that you don't necessarily see as far as a wrestler. He took literally I've seen the videos of Triple H and stuff that they thought was funny to them, and they just did it and incorporated it into wrestling.
He's actually my favorite wrestler of all time, which might sound kind of odd because I didn't have him in my Mount Rushmore. I mean, you got to look at all aspects. You just can't throw all your favorites up there because, I mean, Ultimate Warrior is one of my favorites. He certainly ain't going to go up there. But Shawn Michaels is my favorite wrestler of all time, and one of the reasons why is because I saw his career blossom from just another guy in a tag team to his early singles run to becoming a champion, changing to DX, leaving, coming back. I mean, it spanned my entire, fandom of being a wrestling fan.
Yeah, I agree with you. Shawn Michaels is one of my favorites too. And you know what else I liked about Shawn Michaels? The dude sang his own. He was so conceited that he sang his own theme song, talking about how sexy he is.
Not only that, but he kept it during his whole run.
Yeah, the whole time. Even when he came back as the Christian born again guy, his songs still say, "I'm still a sexy boy." So, I like Shawn Michaels, and that's why I think he was kind of one of those guys to revolutionize his character multiple times. And it wasn't just going from heel to face and face to heel. He changed his characters and stayed within himself, so it wasn't that far of a stretch. And Andre the Giant at that time, a big 7-footer, a little slow but could get up with these boys, was wrestling Hulk Hogan. And not on top of that, he was the first kind of guy to go. He filmed The Princess Bride, was funny in The Princess Bride, and was still wrestling at the time. And the dude was just massive. For a guy that tall, that big, to be wrestling in and out, night out, holding the championship, choke slamming Hulk Hogan, the matches that he had. He goes and films comedies and then comes back. That's why I had kind of Andre the Giant in there.
No doubt. I mean, he's a one of a kind, and unfortunately, a lot of people just remember his later years in the WWF post WrestleMania 3, where even at WrestleMania 3, he was kind of broken down and not as mobile as he used to be. But when you look at the mid 70s or late 70s, early 80s, I mean, the guy was just a phenomenal athlete, man, for a guy his size and just unlike anything else at the time. And this was back in the day where they were actually traveling across the entire country, going from territory to territory, wrestling night after night. And then the legendary stories that you hear about this guy, putting away the alcohol, the amounts of alcohol he used to consume and whatnot. I mean, just a legend.
Yeah, this dude would warm up with a keg. A keg was a warm up for him. And his hands were just so. I've seen the photos of Little Shane and stuff like that with Andre the Giant. His hands were so freaking massive, and I know wrestling is choreographed and stuff like that, but there's no way in hell you could pay me any kind of money to take a damn chop from Andre the Giant. I'm sorry, it's not happening.
It's one of those deals where you almost gotta wonder, man, had he gotten pissed at a guy in the ring? I mean, there's literally nobody that can stop him from doing whatever the hell he wanted to do to a guy.
Yeah, there's nobody that could do it. And then, I was looking at this list and I was like, man, I kind of want to create one for WCW because it's hard.
Well, let's give it a shot. Mount Rushmore WCW.
WCW's Mount Rushmore would have Eric Bischoff.
Okay.
Sting.
Right. Ric Flair.
Ric Flair for WCW. And the last spot I would have to, I guess they would have to share it. The Outsiders.
Man.
Kevin Nash. Kevin Nash and Scott Hall.
I would throw Hogan in there, man. Hogan,
yeah.
He's a 2-time Mount Rushmore.
yeah. But I kind of like what Scott Hall and Kevin Nash did pre-Hogan.
I get that, but without Hulk Hogan, the NWO would not have taken off to the levels that it took off to.
Oh yeah, I agree. They needed a big name to be that mystery partner, and there was no bigger name. And on top of that, I think that was the first time he ever went heel, which is just basically like, shocked everybody.
Well, post Hulkamania, it was the first time he went heel. He used to be heel way the hell back in the day.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, but
the legend is Sting was supposed to be that third member if Hogan, for whatever reason, backed out of the idea. It just would not have worked.
I've heard that, and it worked so much better as Sting being the last WCW guy to hold out and be like, screw this, I'm taking y'all all out. That worked so much better than him being that surprise member would have sent shockwaves, but I think the way the storyline played out was much, much better.
You know, something I wanted to get your opinion on, men versus women matches. This whole, women's revolution and wanting to treat women as equals and whatnot, and rightfully so. But this whole phenomenon of men going against women in these wrestling matches and like the more hardcore the match, the the more extreme, things tend to get. Where do you stand on that? Because me personally, if done the right way, there's a place for it, but it's not something that I would like to see all the time.
I've seen Sexy Star in Lucha Underground wrestle men, and she's held her own. And I think it has to be that right woman that can do that. But generally, I'm not a fan.
I've been seeing a lot of what Brandy Rhodes has been doing on the indie scene. I follow her on Instagram, and man, she gets down. She's a tough woman, man. She's not afraid to land on a bed of thumbtacks. None of that shit.
I haven't seen any of her work. I'd have to check it out. But that's cool, and I don't mind like women getting down on the hardcore scene and stuff like that. But in this day and age that we live with, other athletes and stuff like that with domestic violence, I just don't think you can get away with like a dude just clotheslining the hell out of a woman and it'd be okay.
No, of course not. And obviously this isn't the first time we've seen, men and women kind of interact with one another. It goes way, way, way back. It's just that here recently it's gotten to the point where we're really starting to see some brutal stuff. But I remember back to the Attitude Era where China would get involved, but it was China. She had that aura about her that you legitimately could buy her hanging with the guys.
Yeah. See, like I said, China can do it, because, let's be honest, some of the early China, she wasn't as feminine as she was towards later on in her career. So, you looked at it and you was like, maybe. But China had that muscle, that build. And when she interfered, it wasn't like, she was getting in there, low blowing a dude and getting out of her way. It's not like she was going up to Lita style and doing a Hurricane Rana on any of these guys. So it's got to be the right woman in order to pull it off, in my opinion. But generally, I want to, what I want to see? Let's see these women get down on some of these hardcore matches against each other.
Right. That's something that they've been pushing for. Last year, we saw Charlotte and Sasha in the Hell in a Cell. We saw the first ever women's Money in the Bank ladder match, what I think is the first ladder match period for women. What do you think will be the next step as far as them getting into an extreme match?
Probably like a table, ladders, and chairs match, or a woman, what is it, the match where you have to put them through a table in order to win, just a downright tables match.
Well, they had one earlier this year, if I'm not mistaken, Alexa Bliss.
Yeah, that's right. And
oh my goodness, who the hell did she?
Becky Lynch. I think it was Becky Lynch.
There you go. So that was that was last year.
But I would like to see a hardcore like kendo stick, trash cans, chairs, stop signs, kind of one of those old school hardcore matches where they just beat the hell out of each other until one can't go. And they did that. They did the Half Iron Woman. The 30-minute match with Becky and Sasha and Charlotte.
That is correct. That Roadblock this past year.
Yeah. So, can they go an hour? I mean, I don't know if you necessarily want to give them an hour, but.
Speaking of Charlotte, she's probably the only chick right now that I can probably buy as far as possibly hanging with the fellas. Maybe Tamina, she's got that build to her. She's pretty thick herself, but I don't know. I just
you don't see Nia.
Oh, I completely forgot about Nia. Yeah.
Yeah, I could see Nia getting in there, mixing it up with some fellas.
Nah, point taken right there, man. She can run roughshod at the cruiserweight division.
Yeah, she's right. Yeah, she can take them all out pretty easily. Become the queen of the cruiserweights. I say we book it. Make it happen.
Another thing that I thought of, situations where you got a guy using a similar move that was kind of patented by another fella. Nowadays everybody has a super kick when we all associate the super kick with Shawn Michaels. And then I'm sure guys were using it prior to Shawn Michaels. So someone out there might be going, well, Shawn Michaels stole it from this guy. I mean, it's real tough nowadays to come up with a complete original move that doesn't involve all sorts of crazy acrobatics to pull off. I got to thinking RKO and Diamond Cutter. Randy Orton with the RKO, Diamond Dallas Page with the Diamond Cutter. Which one do you prefer? Who did it better?
I was thinking about this, and initially Diamond Dallas Page is my dude. I love DDP and WCW, the self high five. But then I was thinking about it, and I'm kind of leaning towards the RKO. And for this particular reason, the Diamond Cutter, boom, you usually hit him in the gut, wrap him, you wrap him around your arm or whatever. You set up the Diamond Cutter sign, and you hit the move. The RKO, he'll catch you, and he's done it plenty of times. He'll catch you in freaking midair and just RKO you. And I like the fact that he's willing to do it anywhere, and it comes out of at any possible moment he can hit the RKO. That's why I give the edge to the RKO.
I like them both. I really like the Diamond Cutter, but I'm with you. I'm going to go with the RKO myself. And I think a lot has to do with Randy Orton. I mean, when he came up with the move, he was younger, a lot more athletic. So like you said, he was able to kind of catch you in all sorts of different angles. I used to love the height that he would get on it. And from time to time, he still gets up there, depending on the guy. And I also like it when he catches guys from midair. But I still got to give some credit to DDP, man. He would, he used to be real innovative with, he will catch a guy, and he'll throw him over his shoulder, and the next thing you know, he's going for the Diamond Cutter when you thought he was going to slam the guy or something like that.
Oh, yeah, and not just that, the fact that in his heyday, these guys used to call their shots, per se, and that diamond sign is just, when he threw that sign up, you knew what was coming. It's over.
Right. And he definitely has the edge in that category over Randy Orton.
Okay, so let me ask you a question now that I just thought about it. Are you a sharpshooter fan or are you a Scorpion Deathlock fan?
Man, they're practically the same move. I associated the sharpshooter, because that's what it's more commonly known as. I associated that with the Scorpion Deathlock because I saw Sting do it first. And quite frankly, I think Sting was doing it first on TV before Bret Hart. Bret Hart didn't start doing it till his solo run in the early 90s, whereas Sting was doing it in the late 80s. So, I mean, they're both the same. I don't think one guy did it particularly better than the other, but I always called it the Scorpion Deathlock.
Yeah, and I think the main difference was where they sat on the person. I think Sting never really, he kind of more squatted, while Bret Hart would literally sit on you and bend it backwards.
Dude, the most brutal looking sharpshooter I think I've ever seen him put on somebody was the 93 SummerSlam on Jerry Lawler. Jesus Christ, he was wrenching so far back. I thought he was going to break the dude in half. Yeah,
that's Bret Hart literally. Not only does he bend you in a C, he puts all his weight on top of you too. I'm like that. Yeah, I'm tapping out pretty quickly if I'm getting in that. But you know what my favorite finishing move is, and he doesn't get enough credit because of what happened. The crossface, the crippler crossface. Benoit's ability to just grab your arm out of nowhere and just lock that in on you, and then he would roll. You would try to roll out of it. He would roll with you, and you're still in there, locked in the middle of the room, and he's got you by the nose. So he's not even hooking you under the jaw. He's got you on the nose. So he's pulling your face back. Oh, forget it. The crippler crossface is one of my all-time favorite moves.
And you're seeing a variation of that with the bank statement with Sasha Banks.
Yeah, that's true. She does have a variation. I wish she would lock that in a little bit better, but she does. I think, but there is a wrestler on Raw that uses it, and they called it the crossface before. John Cena's used it at times. As a matter of fact, John Cena's the guy that uses it at times.
Yeah, and he used to use the STF as well, which is basically a variation of it as well.
Yeah, but the crossface is one of my all-time favorite. And on top of that, he got his nickname because he actually did cripple a guy on accident in the ring. It's pretty awesome too.
Do you know who that guy is? Little trivia. Sabu.
Oh, was it Sabu?
It was Sabu in ECW. He went to do a flapjack. It's where you pick up a guy and you just kind of hold on to his leg and you fall back on your back, and then the guy that you're lifting kind of falls face first. And
okay.
They just miscommunicated. And he went to lift him up, and Sabu just kind of took off like he thought he was doing a backdrop, and he landed square on his head. It looked real brutal.
Yeah. Well, Sabu on top of that is nuts, and all those people down in ECW are nuts. But you know what? And see, here's what I think. When people say that they don't like ECW or some of these other promotions, guess what? Without ECW, you get no Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Yeah, I mean, the ECW's definitely earned their place in history, man. I mean, Cactus Jack went through ECW before going on to the WWE. Stone Cold, like you just mentioned. I mean, and the Eddie Guerrero.
Too Cold Scorpio.
Too Cold Scorpio, Eddie Guerrero, Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio. All these guys showed up on ECW, before they moved on to WCW. So Chris Jericho, Taz, man, they've all come through there.
Oh, you know what? Chris Jericho's Walls of Jericho is similar to...
That's just the Boston Crab.
Yeah, it's variation on the Boston Crab, yeah.
And in later years, instead of torquing on it like he did in his earlier years, he kind of adjusted it to where he was kind of sitting on the guy's back. Because earlier he would wrench back and he would have like a knee on the back of the guy's head, and he would really torque their back really hard.
Yeah. I mean, and that comes with, I guess, age, experience, and, just, as they get older, the bumps that they take, they can't lock it in as much as they used to. Now, let me ask you a question about Sting. Are you a old school Sting or like the Crow Sting?
I enjoyed the Crow Sting before he started talking. Once he started talking and that old Sting personality started coming out of him, I thought the whole Crow thing had kind of diminished and it felt silly. So with that being said, I enjoyed Crow Sting, but I'm going to have to go with Surfer Sting as my favorite Sting.
Surfer, high flat top, the almost Road Warrior like face paint, and then he had the the motorcycle jacket that was all bedazzled out with streamers.
Dude, man, Sting
people just don't know how
man.
Cool Sting was.
He was the man, dude. I mean, he had early 90s Sting. Some of the best matches he's ever had. I mean, the matches he's had with Ric Flair, the matches he had with Big Van Vader. There's this one tag match that I'll never forget. It was him and Lex Luger going up against the Steiner brothers. I want to say it was at a Super Brawl. Man, the dude was a phenomenal wrestler in his day, man.
Oh, Sting was amazing. Sting was an amazing wrestler. And one of my all-time, that's my sister's favorite, and she don't even watch wrestling no more. But you tell her Sting, she knows who it is. She even tuned in to watch his Hall of Fame acceptance speech because it was Sting.
All right, going back to the moves real quick, there's a couple more I want to mention. Spears. Everybody has a spear, but in your opinion, who mastered the spear better than anybody?
The best spear that I'm going to give it to Goldberg. I think Goldberg has the best spear.
You have to, man. I mean, there's a lot of good spears.
Has the best spear.
There's a lot of good spears, man, but the way Goldberg used to lay into them dudes, man, especially back in WCW, you got to give it to Goldberg. Who has the weakest spear? I'm going to say Edge. His spear was never convincing to me, man.
Yeah, but you know what? Edge had to adjust his spear, so it was more of like a shoulder block because of his neck injuries.
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
the only more of a clothesline. Yeah, I could see that.
The only spear that I saw him do, and I was like, okay, that's a spear, was the Rey Mysterio, but then he's twice his size.
What about the one where he jumps off the ladder and spears the dude in the ladder match?
Okay, that was a good one. That was he was doing it to Jeff Hardy, WrestleMania 17.
Yeah,
that was a good spear, man. And then every time I watch that, do you know what I look at? I look at his knees. That had to hurt, man.
Oh yeah, that definitely had to hurt.
Definitely
had to hurt.
I mean, Jeff took a flat back from way the fuck up there too. It wasn't an easy fall for him either, man. But the Edge came down on his knees. He got the worst of the two, I think.
Yeah, and believe it or not, he ended up with neck problems instead of lower body issues.
And I mentioned earlier, super kick. Shawn Michaels, he's my favorite super kick, but there's a lot of good super kicks out there, man. Have you seen this dude, Aleister Black, on NXT and the freaking kick this guy delivers?
I have seen Aleister Black super kick. It's pretty damn impressive.
I mean, it's more of a spinning back kick, but I mean, it's a kick nonetheless. At the end of the day, it's the foot connecting with the guy's chin, but that shit is devastating, man.
Yeah, Aleister Black's is nice. Believe it or not, Dolph Ziggler, even though his character's not that good, Dolph Ziggler delivers a pretty good super kick.
I once heard a Big Show interview, and I thought it was really interesting that he said this. This was during a time where Dolph Ziggler was on the cusp of becoming like a huge deal. Not, he's kind of fizzled out and he is what he is today, but this was when he was on the brink. And Big Show said if they gave him the super kick as his finisher, that he would just be an instant main eventer. And I thought, you know what? He's right. Sometimes a move just sets a guy up for success.
Yeah, like I said, Dolph Ziggler's super kick is well placed, well delivered, and well followed through. And look what it did for Shawn Michaels' career.
And it's funny because Shawn, if I remember correctly, he was using a back suplex, almost like a modified what Kurt Angle was kind of doing with his angle slam, maybe at a, just a slight difference to it, but that was his original finisher, and that just wasn't getting over. The super kick was just a kick that he was doing in the middle of a match. It wasn't even like a setup or like a the B finisher. It was just a move he was doing.
Those desperation kicks to get some breath to get to his tag team partner.
Right.
So let me ask you a question: Eddie Guerrero's Three Amigos, or Kurt Angle's trifecta power slam?
Or German suplexes, you mean?
Or his German suplexes.
That's a good question. Man, they're both impressive to look at, but man, I have to think that the suplex is probably the harder of the two to do. What do you think?
Well, yeah.
Because I mean, he's done that to Brock Lesnar, man.
That's true.
Brock Lesnar's a huge dude to be lifting up over your head like that in a suplex. I mean, it ain't easy to do a German on him by any means, but I think the suplex where you got to lift him over your head and then you got to roll over, repeat, I think that's going to be the harder thing to do. So I'm going to go with the Amigos. Yeah,
that's true. But Eddie had the nice little knee, like the almost a Booker T spin a Rooney to get back up.
Yeah, he did.
Well, I think style-wise, Eddie Guerrero has him beat there.
Okay, so staying with Eddie Guerrero, he had the frog splash. Rob Van Dam had the 5-star frog splash. Which one was yours?
I like the frog splash. I like RVD's 5-star frog splash, but to me, Eddie Guerrero is one of my all-time favorites. Mainly for his gimmick when he finally got it, the lie, cheat, and steal, and the lowriders coming out, and his willingness to do anything. I like his, but his 5-star frog splash I always remember were the best when he had the mullet.
Yeah. I really liked Eddie Guerrero's frog splash. He was really smooth. It was almost like he glided to his opponent as opposed to lifting off and getting air. He just kind of glided, and it looked so devastating, especially when he got bigger in his later years. But man, Van Dam, he used to get up there with that 5-star, man.
That's true. But you know who used to get up there? It wasn't a 5-star, but the shooting star press, Billy Kidman.
Yeah.
Billy Kidman used to get some air on that shooting star press.
And old Evan Bourne, he would get up there too with his shooting star press.
Yeah, it's crazy.
If you go online to YouTube, obviously we all remember Lesnar's failed shooting star at WrestleMania 19, but there is footage on YouTube of him actually hitting it during some dark matches before Raw tapings. This was before he got called up to the main roster, and it's a hell of a sight to see a dude that size hitting a shooting star press.
I'm going to have to check it out. I didn't know that. I mean, I imagine that wasn't the first time he hit the move or tried to hit the move at WrestleMania 19. I imagine that he had been practicing that for a while and he had hit it before, but it just did not work. I mean, partly because Kurt Angle was just too far away.
Yeah, he was too far away and he just didn't get the rotation he needed, man. You can tell, especially watching now that you know what the outcome is, especially watching now, you just say to yourself, man, he never had a chance to hit that move.
Yeah, it's like when you watch Shane McMahon try to go corner to corner with like the drive by in the where he goes corner to corner to hit the trash can, and you can tell at some of those times where he just barely taps the trash can. Like, you know, he doesn't have enough. He just barely taps the trash can, and they just kind of pull it into themselves. Like, come on now, you know damn well he does not have enough legs to get him from one side to the other.
All right, man. So we're gonna end it on this one. One more move, the elbow drop. A lot of people have an elbow drop. I mean, we mentioned Shawn Michaels. He has an elbow drop. CM Punk used to do the elbow drop. Kairi Sane here, the winner of the Mae Young Classic, she has a wicked elbow drop. It's pretty damn cool to see her do it. But all-time greatest, of course, I got to go Macho Man.
Yeah, Macho Man's my pick. How can you not go? You know, you twirl the finger, you pump up the crowd, you curl those fingers, you get up on that top rope, you pad that elbow, and you just drop it. There's no way you can't go anywhere other than Macho Man. My close second would be the most electrifying move in the sports entertainment today. The People's Elbow is my close second.
Yeah, I mean, he's not coming off the top rope, obviously, but the end result is still an elbow drop, and, man, you got to give him all the credit for as far as creativity. When I first saw that move, I thought it was the most garbage move I've ever seen in my life. But then as I started getting into the character of The Rock, I just love the People's Elbow, man.
Yeah, it's not the elbow drop per se. It's what he does to set it up. He kicks the dude's arm to his body. He reaches over, removes the elbow pad. He slings it. He goes side to side. He jumps from one side to the other side and then stands there and sits there for a minute and is like, it's coming. And there's nothing you can do about it, and then just drops it. It's more of the setup for that move than it was for the move for him.
Two of my all-time favorites. Number one was a SmackDown episode where he did one to the British Bulldog. He had on loafers. Do you know which one I'm talking about? And
he slid across the ring.
All-time classic. And then my second, WrestleMania 20, The Rock, Ric Flair. Flair, I forgot how they got to the spot, but Rock's laid out. I think Batista hit him with a powerbomb now that I'm thinking about it. So he's laid out, and Flair takes off the elbow pad and starts mocking Rock and starts doing the strut like he was going to do the elbow. And then Rock pops up, lays out Flair, and does a strut and hits him with the elbow drop. All-time classic moment.
Yeah, I think one of my favorite elbow drops is when he hit Stone Cold with the elbow drop. I think he had just gotten out of I don't remember. I think it was an episode on Raw. He evaded the Stone Cold Stunner, ends up hitting him with the rock bottom, just kind of out of desperation, works his way back up, hits it side to side, flicks off Stone Cold, gives him the double middle fingers, and then hits him with that elbow drop.
I remember that one. That's a classic as well.
And then, now that you mentioned Flair, is Flair the only wrestler in the world to ever have that that moment where he's just getting so beat up that he's just walking around in the corner and then he kicks that leg up and just drops face first to the mat?
The face first flop. You know, I'm surprised Charlotte hasn't picked that up and been doing that as a tribute.
You know, she probably just hadn't thought about it because, you know, most wrestling fans won't even pay attention to that. But, like, I loved it when you saw Flair in the corner and then he comes out and he's just swinging that air and just, bam, just flops into the floor. That or when they send him to the turnbuckle and he flips over.
Him and Shawn Michaels, they both did that move.
Yeah.
Well, dude, that's how we're going to end it, man. This episode is going to end on a Ric Flair face first flop. Was there anything else you wanted to mention?
No, just, you know, obviously you got several podcasts out there. You're doing a great job. You've got a lot of good work going out there. So, you know, keep listening to NCTV podcast. Keep listening to the Clean Finish. And we'll come with, I guess we're going to be back with no mercy results.
Yeah, let's try to squeeze that out. We'll touch base with one another on Sunday as the event's going down, and we'll try to make something happen.
Sounds good. Anytime, Triple R.
This is one you will not want to miss. Teddy Robinson talking about this one here in the Bay Area. Bobby Heenan, I'm certain you're going to have something to say about this very unusual, this very unique match.
You know, you're talking about the Cow Palace. Now, any facility all over the world is either known as the Superdome, Pontiac Silverdome, The Cow Palace? Did they name it after the ladies that work here?
Wait a minute. There is tremendous tradition in that great
Oh,
facility.
that's
Please.
right. If you can go moo, you can get in for half price, I guess, huh? You know, you heard of the long arm of the law. The big boss man has the long hand of the law. That's what IRS told me. He can take more bribes from people that have parking trouble and ticketing here.
You should never talk about anybody having their hand out. You of all people.
Now,
Let me
come
tell you
on.
what IRS told me.
His IRS, he knows what he's talking about, does he? Huh?
He's never lied to me. He helped me with my taxes.
I bet he has.
$280 last year I had to pay.
With what you made last year?
A little steep, I know what you're saying, but I get the right
You
up.
paid $280? That's a travesty.
No.
Someone should really look into that.
No.
Alfred Hayes?
No.
I think that's
okay.
terrible. But then again, he's always like that. He's always telling fibs, lying. When do you ever tell the truth?
You're a good-looking guy.
What?
Lied again, didn't I?
Oh, let's take you to action. You sure did.
Nervous, aren't you?
No, I'm not nervous. I just want to collect my thoughts and make sure everything I say is understood properly. Because it's obvious the World Wrestling Federation here doesn't listen to me, and they don't care about me. Yes, I am a gifted athlete and a wrestler, but I don't particularly care to wrestle, and they know that. The whole thing is between Andre and the Hellbilly and Stutt and Bundy. And just because some goon at 7'4" and 500 pounds and some dumb hick from Mud Lick put their two heads together with an IQ of 10, they want me in the ring. They want to get their hands on Stutt. They want to pick up that money for a slam. They want to get rid of Bundy because they're jealous of his size and massiveness. And they want to get rid of me because they're jealous of me. My whole life, everybody's been jealous of me. Everybody's been worried about me my whole life. They've done this to me. They've done this to me. Don't you call me Weasel either, pal.
No, I didn't. I said you're paranoid.
No, you called me Weasel and I heard you.
I said you're trying to weasel out of this match.
No, I didn't try to weasel out. I just don't want to have anything to do with this match. I want to sit down that chair. I want to guide my men. I don't want to get in there. I don't want some guy 7'4" putting his dirty, filthy hands on me. I don't want some hillbilly putting his dirty farm hands on me. But I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Now, you think it's a handicap because there's 2 of you against 3 of us. It's a handicap in your part. Because, Andre, you were carried out of the Maple Leaf Guards in Toronto. And Hillbilly Jim, you thought you stole the Manager of the Year award from me and gave it to Albano. And you didn't, because I'm Manager of the Year. And they carried you out of there, too, after that. They carried out Albano. And I'm going to guarantee you something. Thursday, on the 12th of December, they better not bring any ambulances there to the Oakland Coliseum. They better bring some big dumpster trucks where they haul the garbage out. Because that's what they're going to carry Andre out of there with, and the Hellbilly. Because Studd and I and Bundy are walking out of there. And don't you call me Weasel. Somebody's just calling me Weasel here. Somebody's calling me Weasel.
It must be from behind there. Fans, go listen in Oakland on the 12th. Weasel!